All right, so this is my total 255th class. Wow. Oh my God, that's amazing. I skipped how to pronounce the name again. I'm just going to say it in Spanish. Yes, because we're in Spanish class. Jainer. Perfect. Okay. And Nicole, is this your, I'm going to highlight you real quick. Is that okay? Okay. Is this your first class? Yes. Okay. I see you nodding. I'll take you off real quick. And okay, we're having a lot more people join us. That's perfect. We have 1 more minute. So if you just joined the class and you scroll up on the chat, I have uploaded um, a PDF of what we're going to cover today. In this PDF, if you don't want to open it right now, you will also see that I typed essentially what we're going to cover today in today's lesson. In case you didn't know, the date is January 18th because we're already halfway through the month. And we're going to talk about the structure of a sentence in Spanish. Then we're going to talk about the different ways that we can make a sentence using verbs in Spanish, how to use negations in Spanish, and then we're going to practice. That's it. Super simple, right? All right, so let me go down, see if anyone else said. So my husband's Mexican. Ashley saying my husband's Mexican. We mainly speak Spanish, but I need to work on it. Yes, that's what we're here for. I do have trouble with grammar and some words, and my last name is Limon. Raise your hand on this. Raise your hand if you know what limon means. Let's see. Nicole, what does limon mean?
I think it means lemon.
Yes, you got it. Lemon. Perfect. Okay, so there's a lot of we have from pros to people that are, this is the first time, like Leslie. So how about again, if anyone else join and you have no idea of what's going on, that's okay. We'll all figure it out together with you. On the bottom of your screen, you have access to turn off your camera, turn off your mic, and raise your hand. I'm going to ask you to raise your hand because sometimes, even though I can hear you all, it may be a little difficult to pick up who's talking. Feel free to use the turn off your microphone and your camera, especially if you're in a place that's really loud. We would absolutely, I would appreciate so much if you turn off your mic for a second, only because it helps me tune into all of you. And if you have any questions, you can type it, raise your hand, and I'll be here. Feel free to stop me at any moment during the lesson for any questions that you may have. If I need to repeat something, by all means. So, how about we start? I'm going to assume that everyone was able to scroll up and see the PDF that I shared. So I'm going to do this fun little trick, and I'm going to, oh, where is it? Here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you guys. Yes, that's gonna be super fun, and then I'm gonna explain to you, and then we're gonna come back here and see our beautiful faces. You have a question? Okay, so let's do that. Here we go. Can everyone see that? Say yes, because I can hear you, and if I don't hear anything, I'm gonna assume or say no. Um, can everyone see that? Yes? Perfect. Yainer said no. ¿No ves? Sneak. Everybody says yes. Okay, I see a lot of yes. Um, all right, so I'm gonna go ahead. Most of you see it. All right, so today's lesson, like I said, the structure of a sentence in Spanish. Then we're gonna go into the different ways of making a sentence using verbs. Then how do we say the opposite of what we're saying? How do we negate the sentence? And then we practice. Just a little quick note. If you were having fun with me, right, because you are, my next class will be January 25th at 5 p.m. You can sign up. It's going to be more practice conjugating common verbs. All right, so let's scroll down and see. Don't worry, Dana. We're gonna if when you hop on, I'll catch you up. All right. So the structure of a Spanish sentence. Do you guys Perfect. All right. So I'm going to open it up. A Spanish sentence is very much so like English. The way it's structured is by using subject, verb, object. Yes? Very simple, right? So, for example, yo como frutas. I eat fruits. Or ella escribe mensajes. She writes messages. Or nosotros compramos comida. We buy food. I'm using these three examples to explain everything else that comes next. So feel free to stop me, ask me any questions about these. But these are pretty straightforward questions. Sentences. Yo, the subject, como, the verb, frutas, the object. All right, so this is where the fun starts. Many different ways of making a sentence in Spanish give me one second. We have a sentence with no subject. So if I say como frutas, it still means I eat fruits. But if I choose to say yo como frutas, all it means is I'm trying to emphasize that it's I that eats fruits, not they, not we, but I eat fruits. Any questions so far? Okay, perfect. So now that we know that we have in a sentence, oh, Leslie, I'm so sorry that you have to drop out, but we'll be here and you may be able to actually see the ending. Okay, so I'll continue. So now that we know that in a sentence we have subject, verb, and object, but we can drop the subject and still have a sentence como frutas. Let's move on to the next way of having a sentence. Now, we know that in any sentence in Spanish, the verb has to agree with the subject, whether it is there or not. Are you following me? The verb has to always agree with the subject, whether the subject is there or not. Let's take a look at B. For example, escribe mensajes. We're omitting the subject, however, escribe is conjugated for the third person, and then we have the object. We see it again in compramos. Compramos comida. We are omitting the subject, nosotros, but comprar, compramos, is the verb comprar conjugated for the first person plural. I'm going to take you off for a second. Are you guys following me? You guys are very quiet. Feel free to say anything. I hear you. Nothing? Okay, perfect. I will move on. Let me share the screen again. Thank you, Nicole. Perfect. All right, so let's continue. So now we know we can have a sentence without the subject as long as we have the verb and the object. And the verb always has to agree with the subject, whether it's whatever it is, whether it's yo, tú, él, nosotros. So the next way of having a sentence would be, okay, so now we removed the subject and we kept the verb and the object. But can we also replace the object with a pronoun, right? Perfect. The pronoun would be lo, la, los, las. Okay, so how do we form a sentence with this, keeping our verb? Well, here we are. The exact same sentences we use at the beginning. I eat fruits. Yo como frutas. Now I'm removing the subject because I'm conjugating the verb for yo, for I, and I'm replacing my object with the pronoun. Now, pay attention to the fact that in Spanish, the pronoun goes before the verb. In English, we tend to make the pronoun after the verb, but in Spanish, it goes before the verb. So, for example, las como means I eat them. Los escribe means she writes them. La compramos means we buy it. Now, the trick here is the verb has to always agree with the subject, like we said here. Well, the pronoun has to always agree with the object. So, for example, frutas is plural and it's feminine. Therefore, it goes with las. However, in messages, it's plural and it's masculine. So, the pronoun is los. If you guys are not understanding anything, feel free to shout. You guys are so quiet. Is that I'm doing really good or there's bad connection? But I doubt that there's bad connection. So we're doing great. Then the last one would be la compramos, which means we buy it. That's because comida is singular and feminine. Yes? So we went from the structure of a sentence is subject, verb, object. And then we created a sentence where we got rid of the subject and then we replaced the object and we continuously kept the verb. Yes? I want you guys to see my face real quick. Yes? Are we good? Any questions so far? No. Okay. Thank you. I heard a no. That's great. Muy bien. Thank you, Nicole. All right. So it's very simple the way we're moving forward with this. Now we're gonna get into. I'm gonna explain something that we're gonna briefly touch upon, just so that you have it for your information. But we're gonna move on to more fun things. All right. So I'm going to share the screen again, and here we go. I want to make sure no one's raising their hand. Perfect. All right. So back to what we're talking about here. Okay. So the subject, verb, object. We can remove the subject, keep the verb and object. We can replace the object with a pronoun, but remember the pronoun has to go in front of before the verb. Great. There are instances where the verb goes before the subject and it breaks the sentence pattern and it's verb, subject, and it would be only in instances where we're dealing with passive sentences like se vende libros, books for sale, or se habla español aquí, which is a very common sentence that you see in many places, especially here in the United States, where they say Spanish is spoken here. A lot of the times they just stop at se habla español because the aquí is already understood. And if you notice in Spanish, there's a lot of sentences where like there's you can omit certain words and the meaning is understood. Like, for example, here, as long as you conjugate the verb according to the subject, you don't need the subject, it's already understood. Another way of forming sentences is also thinking that it doesn't matter in Spanish. For a lot of things is very flexible, so it doesn't matter the order that you place the object and the verb. It just gives you a different meaning. For example, como frutas means I eat fruits. Frutas, como means fruits I eat. Como frutas. It's almost like the exact same sentence from the beginning. However, the meaning is different. I'm going to say it again, and I wrote it down for you guys there, but I want you to hear the difference between como frutas. And the one that I emphasize, como frutas, I mean I eat them. I don't sell them. I don't cut them. I don't buy them. I eat them. I como frutas. Make sense? It almost seems like the same sentence. You just change it. And then keep in mind, this doesn't apply to everything. Um, This is just when you start getting a little bit more comfortable with removing the subject, as long as your verb is conjugated correctly. All right. I see no questions, so we're doing great. All right. So moving down to negations in Spanish using verbs. Now, this is a trick for you for when you're reading later. I'm keeping this consistent with what's going on the top. See, A is no subject, B is no subject, C is no subject and using a pronoun. That's the type of sentence. When we are adding the no on a sentence that has no subject, we're going to use the same sentence as an example. No como frutas. The negation goes before the verb. That is whether you have a subject or not. For example, ella no escribe mensajes. No compramos comida. So, if you notice whether the sentence has a subject or the subject is omitted, the no goes before the verb all the time. All right. How about if we want to make a shorter sentence where we use no subject and no object and we just use a pronoun? Well, the no goes before the pronoun and the verb, and we already know the pronoun goes before the verb. So the sentence example would be no las como. I don't eat them. This is referring to I don't eat fruits. I don't eat fruits. I don't eat them. But if you were to have the subject, because remember, you can pick and choose when you have the subject there if you want to make an emphasis or not. Well, ella no los escribe. Notice how the subject goes first, then the no, then the pronoun, then the verb. So the structure of the sentence of pronoun verb is always the same, and the no always comes before them. No la compramos. Yes? So keeping in mind the pronoun has to match the object at all times. Leslie, vuelvo enseguida. Perfecto, Leslie. We will be here. All right. Any questions so far on how negations using verbs work? So you guys see that I'm human. No questions so far on how negations work? All right. So let's move on. If you have any questions, feel free to, on the bottom of your screen, raise your hand in case I don't get a chance to see on the chat. Oh, Patricia. Patricia, would you mind if I highlight you? Okay. Hi, Patricia.
Hi, maybe I came in at the last part, but I don't know what negation is.
Basically saying if I say yo como frutas,
Uh huh.
which means I eat fruits,
Mhm.
yo no como frutas means I don't eat fruits.
Mhm. Okay.
So the no always comes before the verb. And
Okay.
if I replace the object with a pronoun, I would say no las como. Yo no las como. So the pronoun always goes before the verb,
Okay.
but the no always goes before everything and
Uh,
after the subject.
I think it just taken me a little bit to get my head wrapped around it because I'm like pronoun verb. Wait, oh my god, it's been a long time since I've been in school. Okay, so
Yeah, no, that's
I'm
fine.
getting it, but that's
So
my okay. Perfect.
the spreadsheet that I'm going over I mean the document that I'm going over right now, it's
Mhm.
at the top of the chat. So at the
Yeah,
end of
I
the
downloaded.
lesson, you can have that with you and you'll be
Okay.
able to look it
Over.
over
Yes.
real quick.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions so far about what we went over? If you just joined, don't freak out. You can ask questions. You can scroll up on the chat and check out the document that's there. And okay, so I'm going to do a quick overview while you see my face and of the type of sentences. And then we're going to move on to some practice. Yes? Okay, perfect. I'm like, I hear you, but I don't. All right. So An example of a full sentence would be: Ella escribe mensajes. Ella escribe mensajes, which means she writes messages. Subject, verb, object. Ella escribe mensajes. Now, a sentence could also be: we drop the subject and we keep the verb and object and we say escribe mensajes. Keeping in mind the verb always has to agree with the subject, whether the subject is there or is omitted. Escribe, which is the verb escribir, has to always agree and be conjugated with the subject. Escribe mensajes. Now, if we want to say, well, let's shorten that sentence even more, because we say in Spanish we have a lot of words, but we can shorten it a little bit more. And we say, instead of escribe mensajes, let's replace the object with a pronoun. Now, the pronoun has two rules: it has to agree with the gender designation of the object and the quantity. So, mensajes is plural and it's also masculine, so it becomes los. Los is placed before the verb. Los escribe. It means she writes them. She writes them. Los escribe. So the rule is you can get rid of the subject as long as the verb is conjugated with the subject. You can get rid of the object as long as the pronoun agrees with the object's gender designation and quantity. Now, the pronoun always goes before the verb. Great. Now, if we want to say the opposite, we want to negate the sentence, the no always goes before the verb. And if there's a pronoun, the no goes before the verb and the pronoun. So basically after the subject. For example, ella no escribe mensajes. That's a full sentence. Ella no escribe mensajes. Now, if I want to get rid of the sentence, does anyone have a question? Oh, that was me, a little echo. Ella no escribe mensajes. But if I want to get rid of ella, I still have the same sentence. No escribe mensajes. Now, if I want to get rid of the object as well, but still have a a negation, let's get rid of the object and I say no los escribe. Perfect. Now I gave that explanation. That's exactly what we had on the worksheet. But now you saw my face. So let's move on to the next one. I'm going to share the screen again with you guys. Oh, there's a question. Rachel, do you mind if I spotlight you for a second? Well, we can see you, but everyone can hear you. Hi,
Yeah.
Rachel.
Hi. Question. So you kept on saying that you removed ella and then just say escribe mensajes.
Correct.
But how do people know that it's not el or, you know,
That is a very
you
good
know?
question. So, because él y ella have the exact same conjugation, it's pretty much based on context. So, if I say ella, if you don't know who I'm talking about, you will still ask, who's ella? So, in a sentence, and you're talking to someone, you can say, and let's say I'm talking about Patricia, and I say, Patricia speaks Spanish. Then I can say, she speaks Spanish. Then I can say, speaks Spanish. That's essentially what in Spanish we're doing. So if I say, Patricia habla español, ella habla español, habla español. So it is a little confusing if you have no idea who the subject is in the first place, unless there's a name. But typically, you can still form a sentence using the verb and conjugating the verb. And yeah, in some instances, for él or ella, you need to know who the person's referring to. The same thing goes with plural, ellas or ellos.
Okay. So basically, to wrap up, is you have to have a context before you can use that. In other words, you can't just jump into, I just say, hi, escribe mensajes. Obviously, you don't know
Right.
who I'm talking about. Okay, gotcha.
Exactly. Right. And that would happen in even in English. Like if you say you jump in and you say speaks. I know that speaks is the conjugation for he or she, but I would ask, well, who speaks? Now, if we know we're talking about, let's say, Nicole, well, I don't have to say her name anymore. I could just say she, but I don't even have to say she. I could just conjugate the verb and the action, I mean, and the object, and it's already understood. And it's still a full sentence in Spanish. Did that make sense,
Yes.
Rachel? Okay,
Yes, yes,
perfect.
yes. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to take you off the highlight real quick. Any other questions? Okay. All right, so I'm going to share the screen again with you guys. And did I open it? Here we go. All right. And I'm going to move on to, you're welcome, Patricia. Let's move on to the next portion. Well, this is the practice. Look how quick the class is going, but you know what? This means that you guys are getting it. So the practice. So for all of you that may need a quick refresher on how to conjugate verbs, especially the ER and AR verbs, here's a refresher using the example lavar, which means to wash. Feel free to repeat after me. I'm going to say it a few times, and I would love for you to jump in and repeat with me, okay? Yo lavo. Tú lavas. Él lava. Ella lava. Nosotros lavamos. Ustedes lavan. Ellos lavan. Ellas lavan. So the trick here is, I don't know if you can tell, I have highlighted, let me bring it a little closer. Okay, I have highlighted the ending for each one of the subjects. So if you notice, ustedes, the last two plural, always end in an. The first person plural, nosotros, always ends in amos. And then yo, tú, él is o, as, a. When I was learning, let me give you this little anecdote. When I was learning English, it was hard for me because in Spanish, the second person gets the S. And in English, the only difference is the third person gets the S. So imagine how many times I mispronounce, I would say you speaks. And it was extremely noticeable that I didn't speak English as a first language. So don't feel bad if you mispronounce anything because the fact that you're trying to learn a different language means that you are beyond awesome. And I mean, that's the thing to do, right? All right, I'm going to go back to the sharing of the screen. All right, here we go. So we can repeat this again. And keep in mind, these are the endings for ER and AR verbs. IR verbs have a different, slightly more complicated conjugation. So let's keep it to these two for the sake of learning how to make sentences. Any questions, raise your hand or type it up and I'll be here. All right. So let's go over lavar again. Yo lavo. Yes. Do you want to hear us repeat after you, you feel free to do that. I can hear you guys. And most of you, if not all of you, are doing a great job making the pronunciations and conjugating the verbs with me. So feel free to do it. I hear you. I hear you. All right. So yo lavo, tú lavas, él lava, ella lava, nosotros lavamos, ustedes lavan, ellos lavan, ellas lavan. Perfect. All right. So what we're gonna do next is I would like for you guys to jump in and help me create these sentences. So if you look at the far left column, I give you the type of sentence that we are going to create on that line. So for example, a full sentence, I'm going to do the first one. A full sentence, we use the subject, yo, the verb, vender, and the object, flores. So the first sentence would be, yo, why is it on caps? Yo vendo flores. My head spells in English, as you notice. Yo vendo flores. That is the first sentence. It's a full sentence using subject, verb, and object. So, can I have a volunteer to give me a sentence with no subject on number two? Raise your hand. Come on, you guys know this. Okay, Patricia, I'm going to highlight you real quick. And I don't know if you can see her, if you guys can see her, but we can hear you. Everyone can hear you.
Okay. Leve, le, leves libros. I don't know if I'm not saying
Okay, so leer is to
okay.
read.
Okay.
Leer. How do you conjugate? Look at the top. Oh, that's this one's a little tricky because it's an ER, but it's
Of
different.
course,
So
I
I'll
would
tell
pick that
you.
one.
Leer. Leer. I'm gonna do it for you. I'm gonna write it for you. Lee.
Oh, I was looking at two. I was looking at the wrong thing. I
Oh,
see it now. That's why I was like the les with the okay.
right. This is how you conjugate the third person of
Okay.
leer. Lee.
Le libros. Is that books?
Correct.
Okay. Le libros.
Is the sentence done then?
Sí.
Muy bien.
Okay.
Muy bien. This lee libros, we know that it's a he or she because of the way leer is conjugated. All
Okay.
right? All right. Thank you so much,
De
Patricia.
nada.
Good job. Gracias. All right. Can anyone else who wants to jump in and do the next one, which is a sentence with no subject and no object? Who is daring enough? I'm kidding. You guys can do this. Come on. I'm here. I'm going to help you. You'll try. Oh, I think I saw Ashley raise your hand. I heard someone else say, I'll try it. If you can raise your hand so I can put you right on next. Ashley, you are highlighted. Everyone can hear you. Can you help us out?
Ustedes juegan juegos.
That is the full sentence. Now, can you give me a sentence? That's a great job, by the way. Great conjugation. Now, can you give me the sentence without the subject and replacing juegos with the pronoun? Now, I gave you on the bottom the gender designation and whether it is plural or singular.
Juegan los juegos.
So if you have los, you don't need juegos. You could say like that, juegan los juegos, and that's also a sentence because in Spanish you can do a lot of things with the words, but in this one, I wanted you just to remove the subject and replace juegos with the pronoun. So you have the right idea. Where would I put my pronoun? Before or after the verb? If it's just a verb and pronoun. Do you
Before.
remember? Before, that's right. Los juegan. Is that the sentence?
Sí.
Muy bien. Los juegan. Here, as you could see, los matches juegos, which is masculine and plural. And juegan is the conjugation for ustedes of the verb jugar. Perfect. Thank you, Ashley. All right. Who wants to do the very next one, which is a full sentence with the negation? Let me see. Harold, let's see. We have from the social media participant, we have Harold. Um, oh, he already made it. Comen pizza. Perfect. Well, Harold, comen pizza, but I wanted the full sentence. So you're missing one thing. Remember, subject, verb, object. So comen pizza. What is it missing? Guys, I'm doing it on the chat. I don't know if you on the chat you can see we also have the social media, either YouTube or Facebook participants. So um, ella, ellas is plural. Yes, but you got it. Yes, ellas comen pizza. Harold, you are at 100% correct. Ellas, let's write it right here. Let me share the screen with you again. Ellas comen pizza. I didn't translate pizza because, it's pizza. All right, let's keep going. The very next, oh, and this one had, so I'm gonna go back. Harold, that's a really good sentence. However, I forgot that this one has the negation. So where would you, does anyone want to help? Harold, where would the negation go on ellas comen pizza? Any hands raised? Where would the negation go on a full sentence? Ellas comen pizza. Who said that? I think it was Patricia. Patricia said ellas no comen pizza, and that is correct because the no goes before the verb, after the subject, before the verb. Perfect. Let's make another sentence using the pronoun and no subject. No subject. So if you guys notice here, I put it in parentheses every time the sentence is not supposed to have it. Um, so no subject. So nosotros is there just so that you know how to conjugate this verb. And then this, you're not supposed to have it there either. You're just supposed to have this. So the ones that you use a pronoun, I'm giving you the gender and the quantity. So we have Ashley, you said after subject. That is correct for the negation. So we have on social media, ellas no comen pizza. Harold, you did get it right. Thank you for sending it. I just saw it. And then tuve que ir a buscar a mis perros. Oh, Leslie. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you being here, Leslie. All right. So the next sentence. Who wants to join? Nicole. Nicole, I see you, Nicole. All right. Let's highlight you real quick so everyone can hear you. Hi, Nicole.
Hi. Okay. Um, okay, so it's nosotros, so it's no lo hablamos.
That is perfect. No lo hablamos. Because There's no subject, but we know that it's nosotros because of the conjugation of hablamos. And then lo, because inglés is masculine and singular. And then no, we don't speak English. Ironically, that's all we're speaking a little bit today. No lo hablamos. Thank
Yeah.
you so much, Nicole. That was great.
Thanks.
All right, so let's move on to the next sentence. That will be, let me make it a little bigger so I don't keep scrolling for you guys. The next sentence would be with the subject and with pronoun. There's the echo, so I'm gonna turn off my mic real quick and then come right back. Hold on. There's an echo again. I purposely left it on mute to see your reaction and your faces. I just wanted to get rid of the echo. I started to hear myself again. All right. So the next sentence will be with subject and with a pronoun. This is like the last few are just a little tricky, but with the subject, so a full sentence with subject and with a pronoun. Tú buscar tesoros. Anybody wants to jump in and give it a shot? Since we're doing so, okay, so here we go. Chad. Chad, I am going to highlight you. Is that okay? Hello, Chad. I don't think everyone can see you. However, we can hear you. So, by all means, with subject and with pronoun, tell us the sentence.
It's going to be, what's the whole sentence? I can't see the chart right now.
Okay, so the subject is tú.
Okay.
The verb is buscar.
Okay.
And the object is tesoros, which means treasures and is masculine and plural.
Okay. Tú los buscas.
Tú los buscas. Muy bien, tú los buscas. Because we have the full sentence, so we see the subject and then the pronoun los in the perfect place. Perfect. Thank you so much, Chad. That was amazing. All right. Who wants to do the very last example? It's not as tricky because you guys got a hang of this. You guys know how to do this now. Patricia, you want to try this one? Let's highlight you for the last one. Thank you so much, by the way, for volunteering again. So, how do we make this last sentence with the subject and with a pronoun? Oh, for some reason I thought I was, and all you guys were seeing was me looking down. Huh. Here we go. And I didn't get it. Sorry, Chad. All right, so the last one with subject, with pronoun, and a negation.
Okay. Ellos no bailan música.
But we're using a pronoun.
Okay, let me see. Um, ellos no, ellos no lo bailan música.
Now, música is feminine
Mm-hmm.
and singular.
Okay, let me try again.
Uh-huh.
Ellos no bailan la música. La música. Yeah.
So if we use the pronoun, we're replacing the pronoun with the object. You have it right. I just want you to reword it. Um,
Let me try
ellos
again.
no. The
Okay.
pronoun goes before. You got this.
Okay. Ellos n-
No.
ellos no la música bailan.
So let's take it back a step.
Okay.
La replaces música, right? So when we replace the object with the pronoun, where do we place the pronoun?
I don't know. I think that's where I was lost, or I don't get it. I don't know.
Okay, no problem. I can help you out. So
Okay.
when we replace the object with a pronoun,
Hmm.
the pronoun goes before the verb.
Oh, okay.
So it becomes la Bailan.
Oh, okay. It does. So it doesn't go in front of music. That's where I was confused. Okay.
Right, no, because music was replaced with la.
Oh, okay.
Bailan is the verb that goes with ellos
Okay.
and no. So in this one,
Oh,
we're
so I don't say
seeing
musica at all.
no, because in this one, I just wanted you to use the pronoun instead of the object.
Oh, I get it now. Okay, I
Yes,
can see clearly
because
now.
we were just doing subject, verb, object.
Okay,
But
gotcha.
the sentence you gave me is not that it wasn't correct.
Mhm.
It was just like this. If I keep the object and I use the pronoun, you were saying ellos no bailan
Mhm.
la música. You notice how if I keep the object, I automatically the pronoun goes before the object.
Okay.
But if I remove the object, the pronoun goes to before the verb.
Oh, okay.
So, making simple sentences, subject, verb, object, if you remove the subject, you keep the verb and object. If you get rid of the object, you have to replace it with a pronoun which goes before the verb.
Okay.
And if you get rid of the verb, if you get rid of the subject altogether, it's like this one right here, the sample that I'm highlighting. No lo hablamos, no subject, no object, and a negation. No lo hablamos.
Oh, okay.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Patricia. Nicole, you have a question. I'm going to highlight you real quick. So, Nicole,
Okay.
what's up?
Okay, I just wanted to know what the that last sentence actually means. Does it mean they don't dance to it?
Yes, they don't dance it.
Oh, they don't dance it.
Hmm.
Okay. Because it
Yes.
doesn't really make sense in English.
Yeah, no. So, it's one of those again, when you use a pronoun and you sometimes you have to have it in context, right? In order to get rid of the object. So if we're talking about um, they dance, and you say, well, do they dance to music? You're like, no, they don't dance to it.
Okay, so it's they don't dance to it, meaning the
Or
music.
right, right, exactly, because ellos no la bailan is they don't dance to it, meaning to the music. But let's say if we're talking specifically rock music and they say, oh, they love dancing. Oh, so do they dance rock music? You say, oh, no, they don't dance to it, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So
that
in
makes sense.
Spanish, you say, bailan ellos, because then it would be a question. Bailan ellos. Question would be like a whole different class, guys. It's like a whole lot. I'm going to stop sharing the screen. Bailan ellos música. The verb in a question would always be first, right? ¿Bailan ellos música? Well, you say no, ellos no la bailan. Or no, ellos no bailan música. Ellos no la bailan. Or no la bailan. Those are all different ways of forming a sentence to answer the exact same thing in Spanish. But the order of the sentence would be subject, verb, object, or pronoun, verb. Did that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Perfect. All right. Perfect. All right. So I'm trying to see if I had any more questions. I have any no more questions. Okay, so just to give you a quick overview, everything we talked about, if you dropped off at some point, that's okay because everything is on the PDF that I uploaded on the very top of the chat. And today we cover the structure of a sentence in Spanish, the different ways you can make a sentence in Spanish, the different ways you can negate a sentence in Spanish, and then we practiced. And we did a little review of how to conjugate ER and AR verbs. Hopefully, if you want to keep practicing conjugations, next Friday at 5 p.m., I will be here giving you another class, and this is going to be mostly about conjugating common verbs. And there, we're going to get into a little bit more of the IR verbs, which is one of the common ones, like ir, which means to go, and the conjugation for that. And yeah, I think that's about it. If you guys, oh, Nicole, do you have a question? Give me 1 second. I'm going to bring you up. What's up, Nicole?
Okay, one more question. When you went over the like se habla español aquí and it's passive, how do you know when something is passive and you stick the se in front of it?
Let me think. How do you know you're saying how do you know when you want to make the sentence and how when you're reading it? Help me understand your question better.
Okay, like I know you said that you put the verb in front of the subject and this is only in passive,
Mhm.
right? Se habla español.
Mhm.
How do you know? So does that mean like one speaks Spanish or what does passive mean, I guess?
Passive so it's not something that's the subject is not doing it. It's essentially I'll say it's something that happens to the subject. So se venden libros. The books are not the books are the subject, but the books are not selling. The books are being sold, if that makes sense. So se habla español. Español is not speaking. We're speaking español
Okay, so it's happening
to the subject of the sentence.
Oh, okay.
Right. I'm trying to think of another example. Um, Se compran libros, right? Se compran libros means books are bought, right?
Yeah.
You find that in places where, like in colleges, they buy your old books. So se compran libros is like, we do this, like this is happening. The books are not doing it. This is what we're doing with the books. Um, yeah, I'm trying to like wrap my head around explaining this in English for the Spanish. But typically in Spanish, you will see that when it's passive, it always has se, which means it's like let me go back. Se de hacer, se hace esto. Like se is a way of introducing like we're doing this. And also yo sé, which is the same word and means I know. It's a little confusing. It's a lot of different verbs in Spanish. The good thing
It's
is
okay.
once you know one and once you know the words, you read them the same. They sound the same everywhere, and the meaning, it's not very hard to pick up the differences. Like when I say yo como frutas versus como frutas or como frutas. That's why Latinos have a lot of hand gestures and a lot of um, different tones because we tend to use the same sentence and mean a lot of different things. Um, but once you know it, perfect. Oh, thank you, Patricia. I saw you love this class. Nicole, I'm not 100% sure if I answered your question. Do you
Yes.
feel okay?
Yes, you
Um,
did.
if not, I think that there's a way that you can message, and I can definitely look it up and help you out. But yeah,
Okay.
passive is it's something that is not someone performing the action, but it's an action being done on an object.
Oh,
There you
okay.
go.
Yay.
It just hit
Okay,
me.
yeah. That makes sense.
I think that's what it is. And if I'm wrong, anyone raise your hand and help me out. Other than that, I think that the class, I can't wait to. Oh, thank you so much. All right. Well, guys, you have been amazing. Um, I'll be here a little longer, but feel free to drop off. Go scroll up and find the spreadsheet. Keep it with you as a reference later on when you're trying to make sentences. And yeah, have a great night. Happy Friday. Buenas noches. Thank you. Adios. Melissa, you're here. I see you. Thank you for joining.